guys, it's DS Yaxheimer. This is another episode of The Spectre. I'm going to be talking a little bit about Chris Hardwick's triumphant return to the Talking Dead. And I know he does another show. He does the, what is it, The Nerdist? Is that there was that midnight game show he did. I caught it once in a while. It's kind of funny. Now, when this story broke about when his ex, Chloe Dykstra, wrote in some like anonymous online essay somewhere or wherever it was, and detailed alleged accounts of her relationship with Chris Hardwick, and which I honestly like to take a side. I don't know either of these people, so for any of us to take a side on it's kind of insane anyway. But in this hashtag Metoo era, everyone has to kind of weigh in on it every time a celebrity gets in trouble for this kind of shit lately. So, and the thing is, Chris Hardwick, to start off, he's not like famous. I mean, he wasn't even as like he's been around since the 90s. He hosted Singled Out on MTV. With Jenny McCarthy. I remember that, and a couple other stuff. He's a comedian, and he's pretty funny. I've heard some of his stuff. And he's just basically, in the last decade or so at least, because he is such a nerd, he's been doing it longer than that, he was on Attack of the Show too, on the former G4 network. That's another thing. He was on there. Usually talking about new gadgets, I think, and stuff like that, and just he was kind of one of the other correspondents on that, which he was a good fit. And so he's kind of not really, but he's not famous. I mean, he's famous, but he's not like, you know who the hell he is if you are someone who maybe goes to like a Comic-Con or is a comic book nerd or watches The Walking Dead, or that kind of stuff. And there are a lot of people that watch The Walking Dead. So anyway, with that said, he's not. So I don't know why it was sort of little bit of a hullabaloo when this happened, and there were people writing, and I've read a lot of different little essays from, I guess, sort of feminist bloggers or pundits and things like that about some comedy shows and things. There was one about Nathan For You, which isn't really pertinent to what I'm talking about here, but I can go back to that. About they had really strong opinions about Chris Hardwick coming back, about him. I guess some of his staff left, a good portion of his staff, from what I understand. And this is just, keep in mind, this is just shit you read online. And that's like, where did you get that information? Oh, I don't know, some intern I bribed, so I don't know where they get this info from. You can't trust a lot of it in this sort of TMZ era of journalism. So, anyway, and the thing of it is, I have no real dog in the fight with this. I don't. I like The Walking Dead. I am a fan of the show, okay? The after show I thought was okay when it was a half hour. When it became an hour, it was like a fucking drag. I mean, to me, and the thing about the show that I don't like is that there isn't, it's basically to just promote the show. It's not really a discussion about the show, whether it was good or bad, which is kind of insane to have, guests come on after a show on the network that show airs saying that it, that I didn't agree with this and that last episode was pretty fucking lame. But it would make it more interesting to watch if the guests came on and they did sort of riff on some things. I'm not saying, say what was good, but riff on it. And anyway, but not to get into too much of a long discussion about The Walking Dead, but his show is pretty superfluous, though. I mean, you don't really need it. It's a promotional show. It's not a show. It's not a critics' corner. It's not like, okay, let's break them things down. Let's talk about where like what the fuck was that about? What were the writers thinking? Because usually on the show, usually the guests are actors from the show and writers and producers. So and it's a bit of a it's a bit of a stacked deck. You know, it's not really there's no wild card guest on there that's going to come on that would make me want to watch, because I want to watch somebody come on there and start talking shit. It would be funny. And I don't, but that's just not how that show works. So, but anyway, so Chris Hardwick loses his job for about, that was about like a couple of months. And it seemed to happen like right after The Walking Dead ended. I don't know if it was there was the season of maybe it did happen right after the season finale of Fear the Walking Dead. And he sort of conveniently got his job back almost down to the wire before the season opener of Fear the Walking Dead for the mid-season premiere. So, because now we split the seasons up. These days, back in my day, we went through a whole fucking season. Straight through! No breaks. These actors are spoiled. But anyway, so they get these... So he did get his job back kind of conveniently. Maybe and he is sort of the face of it. He's part of the brand of The Walking Dead in a way, at least in terms of the after show. And he's been their geek ambassador, if you want to call him that. I mean, he's just, it's sort of, I mean, it's not that it's not easy to replace him. You could replace Chris Hardwick. You could get rid of that fucking show and nobody would probably miss it. I don't think most fans would really miss it. I mean, there's people that try to get on and call in and stuff like that. There's some of the really obsessed fans, but most people, after The Walking Dead, they either want to see, like me, I'd rather see another episode of The Walking Dead, or, at least a teaser clip or something. That's about it. I really don't want to sit and watch the actors pat each other on the back about what a great job they all did. After, if it was just another rudderless episode, especially when they were really bad, and I guess we can all debate about when was the show really bad. Maybe that's what Chris Hardwick should have, like when he was off. He should have had a sign, when he wasn't, when his job was up in the air still, he should have had made up like red hats and said, "Make The Walking Dead great again." That would have been funny. Of course, he might have not gotten his job back. But he is. To think that my impression of Chris Hardwick, I mean, I don't know him. He seems like he's an alright guy for a celebrity, but he's an incredibly phony person, though. It just and when he did come back on the air, I mean, he was crying and shit, and I'm sure it was a real gut check for him. And maybe this, and I'll just put up like just a picture of Chris Hardwick and his accuser, his ex-girlfriend, Chloe Dykstra. I'll just put that up for a sec. Okay, so you look at that pic. I mean, it's not that. I mean, Chris Hardwick's a good-looking guy. Don't get me wrong and stuff like that. But she kind of has more. I mean, there's just something very. I don't want to use the word high-strung, but I guess about this woman. He was sort of dating people that if he was just a normal guy working somewhere, if he was just like, in a cubicle somewhere working his job and looking as good as he does, which he's not too bad looking of a guy, I guess, he would probably not be hooking up with women like that. And the thing, she was trying, I mean, her career, I don't know what Chloe Dykstra has been, I mean, I've heard of her before, but I don't know what she's been doing lately. And you could make the case that she was doing it maybe to get attention, because, he has a career, he has a talk show, working regularly, he has some visibility, she really doesn't. And why would you just come out now all of a sudden like this? But with that said, I don't really know. I mean, if Chris Hardwick did do something, or if it was, verified and everything like that he did these things, by all means, fuck him, I don't care. I mean, hey, right now, fuck him, I really don't give a shit. I mean, I honestly don't give a fuck if he just got fired because he parked in the wrong fucking spot at work repeatedly. I don't really give a shit, because I worked at places where you would get fired for that shit. And I'm not talking about parking in handicap spots. I'm just like, just any other, without your parking pass, that kind of shit. So, which has nothing to do with this. But yeah, Chris, he's just, to me, he comes off on that, he is funny. Some of his stand-ups I've liked. I think he seems like a pretty nice guy, but he can come off as an epic douche sometime on that show because he's, and he doesn't, I think that, like, to have a discussion forum after a show, to me, should be more like, kind of like a book club or something like that. You're not affiliated with the publisher or whatever. It's like if the person heading the book club was from, like, Random House, and that's the book that you're all discussing was published by that, So that's what I don't really like about it. And the thing is, of course, it's a promotional show. I think we have a caller. Do we have a caller on the Spectre? No, I don't have that. We don't have that. It would be cool to have a call-in show to discuss this, but this issue. But no, Chris Hardwick. I don't give a rat's fucking ass about. I mean, I really don't. It's so beyond stupid. It really is, and that we give a shit about a lot of this stuff. I mean, anytime a scandal erupts in the world of celebrity, we make too big of a deal about it, and they're making too big a deal about this guy getting his job back too. It's like, there wasn't really much, So there just didn't seem to be much to go on here. You can't just, like, anybody can say something happened and, make that public if the person that you're, accusing of is a public figure, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't make it true. And I think that's really, you still need due process, basically. If he did commit an actual crime, if you had a bad relationship with someone in the past, that shouldn't be a determining factor as to whether you get fired, whatever it is. So, and I'm someone, and I'm not a big defender of anybody. I'm not, really accusing of any. I don't put a lot of stock in, accusations made against people I don't know, involving people that I don't know. I mean, but everybody does seem to like to form their opinion. The court of public opinion does determine your career if you're famous, obviously, because otherwise, if they don't like you, then you can't make much money being famous otherwise. So, that's kind of, why he probably was, Chris Hardwick was crying when he got back on the air, because he was this close to losing it all. He was this close to losing that sweet fucking paycheck he gets to sit and talk to, actors and writers on a couch every Sunday night. When you consider a lot of other kinds of jobs that are out there, like jobs that people like me do, that suck. So, that's probably why he was crying, because he knew he was that close to going back to that. He was that close to working as a waiter at Friendly's or whatever the fuck he did before this, So, anyway, that's my take on the Chris Hardwick triumphant return to television. That's my take on it. What do you think? Whatever it is, just leave your comments below. Subscribe if you like. If you just discovered this wonderful, diamond in the rough of YouTube, and you'd like to subscribe so you can be alerted every time I make a new video, and all of that. My name is DS Yoksummer. This has been another edition of The Spectre, or this episode I call it Talking Chris Hardwick, who had problem with the Talking X. Yeah, that's what happened to him. Sucks. I hate when bad things happen to rich people. It really, I'm gonna need a minute. Take care.